Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of two boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing the sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started.
Hey y'all, I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another snack-sized episode of the Life Management System. Okay, guys, holidays are coming up. I know I don't need to remind you. I'm sure your kids are doing that for you, and I know it's extra stressful. So what I'm hoping to do in this episode is to give you 10 things that you can implement to help make it easier and a little less stressful. So let's start with meals. Okay, first of all, let's be honest. The number one hack is to not do anything yourself. And while I say that somewhat tongue in cheek, I think there's an element of that that you can institutionalize. So, what I mean is for more of the complex things like a turkey or stuffing or cranberry, unless it's a family recipe that you are truly, truly obsessed with, don't do it. Like, if it's not something that you actually need, don't do that more complicated stuff. For a marginal amount of extra money, you can get that at the grocery store. Most grocery stores will pre-make things that you can buy in kits and that sort of thing. Get it from there, and then save the recipes you really care about for what you do yourself. For us, what we care about is a smoked turkey. So I'm not a big fan of turkey, but my husband Richard has a Cobb grill. By the way, if you need any gifts for your husband or dad or whoever it may be, a Cobb grill is a mini charcoal grill. They're fairly inexpensive. And my husband Richard turns it into a smoker, and we just do the breast on the bones. And it's amazing. But point being, that's what we prioritize. For the other more complicated things, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to outsource that. I'm going to buy it from the grocery store. Yes, I might pay a 10% markup, but the 10% markup is absolutely worth it to me to get that time back to spend with my family. Okay, number two, I want you creating and saving to your computer a standardized menu. So if you are hosting, regardless if it is in November for Thanksgiving, or for those of y'all in Canada, I guess you've already gotten through that season, or if it's coming up. When you host for the holidays or anything that you do regularly, create a standard menu, save it down to your computer, and then that way every single year you have it to access. And I don't want you just having the menu of what you're serving there. I want you adding specifically what type of things or ingredients do you need to have? Build a grocery store list, maybe even take it a step further and highlight the things that you tend to have in the kitchen so you can verify whether you have it or whether you need to get more ingredients. So, a perfect example is onions. Many households have a bag of onions on hand at all time. Highlight that. And that way, you know, when you go back the next year, oh, yeah, I need to make sure whether we have onions on hand or whether we need to get them. And then I also want you including the preparation instructions. So that way, when it's time to prep everything the day of, you have everything on one hand. You're not flipping back and forth between multiple recipe books or that sort of thing. And then I want you to take that a step further. So, not just the prep instructions, I want you also highlighting anything you have to do last minute and then consolidating that to where you can print that out by itself, or you can handwrite that or transfer it to hand. But the point being, when you have guests over, the absolute last thing you want to be doing is worrying about what time or what temperature your oven needs started on in order to get the dinner rolls ready. So if you need to turn your oven on to 375 2 hours before you intend to sit down for dinner, I want you writing that out on there. And you do it once, you do it this year, and then you'll never have to do it again. Okay, the third thing to help make the holidays less stressful, I want you prepping as much early as possible, whether that be seasoning the meat, pre-cutting veggies, those sort of things are very easy to prepare in advance. I also I batch process martinis. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm a big fan of peppermint martinis. It is the one sweet, decadent thing that I imbibe on, and I will make an entire batch of them. So 4 bottles of liquor that I put in a giant keg, and that way it's already made anytime I host a lot over Thanksgiving, and Christmas. So it's sitting there ready. So when people come over, all I have to do is pour and shake on ice. If you're interested in that, you can get the recipe in the show notes. It's so easy. It's just 4 bottles, you pour it in, and then you have it the entire season. Okay, number 4, as it relates to meal planning, I want you embracing paper products. So I say that lightly because I grew up with 2 Martha Stewart minis. My mom and my aunt were both, I over the top is not the right word because it sounds condescending and is absolutely not intended to be that way. They truly know how to put on a great show. But there is also a level of effort and high maintenance cleanup that goes with that. So as much as I am grateful for the experience they gave me, I will be jolly as can be using paper plates. And I am a huge fan of Hobby Lobby because you can get the extra large plates there, plus they're a great price. So I try to get mine and make a special trip once a year during the season to get those extra large plates from Hobby Lobby, and I'll stock up on them. But I also, just to dress it up a little bit, I put it on a plate charger. So for any of my northern friends that are listening or anybody in the West, I know plate chargers are a very southern thing. Look them up. I have had friends that have come over and eat directly on the charger without realizing it is indeed not a plate, but intended for the paper plate on top of it. But the chargers are such an easy way for you to dress up the meal a little bit, but still make it super easy because all you're having to do after is throw the paper plates away. So I'm going to call a timeout. I'm going to take a breath myself. If the thought of holidays is stressing you out, if me even talking through those first 4 tips and hearing them is stressing you out and all the things you have to do, I want you to consider investing in an Apollo Neuro. So I talk about an Apollo Neuro a lot because I use it for my sleep. I actually use it for my waking up routine too. I don't drink coffee, so I use it to give me energy. But the Apollo Neuro is essentially a tool that goes around your ankle and vibrates and tells your brain what it is you need it to do. So while I use it for sleep and waking up, and it has helped me immensely, they also have settings to help with stress and anxiety. So if that is you, it's a great tool for you. If you have ADHD, they have a meditation and concentration setting, but you can learn more at apolloneuro.com/Courtney Anderson. And when you're there, use code Courtney4 for $60 off. It's not cheap, but I'm telling you, if stress and anxiety is a problem for you, if sleep is a problem for you, if concentration is a problem for you, if getting energized is a problem for you, this is a tool for you. Okay, so moving on then, number 5 on my list, use your village. So if you've been with me for a while, you know that I talk about building a village. And here, yes, to the degree you can, I always outsource. But even if you can't outsource, use your existing village. If you are hosting for other people, use them. When somebody's asking and offering to, what can I bring or what should I bring? Don't take that lightly. Use them. Think very thoughtfully about what it is they can contribute. Or with me, like growing up, it was a thing to peel the mashed potatoes. Like my family is a big mashed potatoes family, and we would go through several pounds, probably about 20 pounds of potatoes. So we would sit there, my cousins and I, and make quite the spectacle of peeling potatoes. But it was so much fun. It was time we spent together. Honest to goodness, it sounds ridiculous, but some of my best memories were sitting around the table with my cousins peeling the potatoes. I do the same thing with Christmas cards. So I always try to have my Christmas cards on hand, completely finished on hand. So that way, the day after Christmas, or at least, or I mean, day after Thanksgiving, when everybody's home, or sometime in that dead period when most of us are laying around watching football, I have us assembling Christmas cards. So I, I grew up in the South. It was impressed upon me. I need to write a message on every one. So I'm very diligent about that. I will write the message. I'll hand it off to one child to stuff, one to lick, and then my husband's there too. He's probably doing the stamps. My only recommendation though is if you do that, make sure the final steps happen. I kid you not. I wish I was lying about this. But last year, I found a whole pile of Christmas cards, but not enough envelopes. And I knew that we had already filled out the envelopes. And I'll be darned if my husband did not put in the mail all of these empty envelopes that had nothing in them. So make sure you check them. I had friends coming back to me and they're like, hey, so bad news. Your card got stuck in the system. And I got an envelope with an apology from the UPS that the card was ruined. And I had to explain, no, no, it wasn't you, it was me. And what made it even harder is I didn't even know which ones who got an actual card and who didn't. So it's not like I could even follow up with them and give them a heads up. A little embarrassing. I sent it to old bosses and coworkers and that sort of thing. But it makes for a funny story, and we have all lived to tell about it. And best of all, now this year, I know exactly what to do. Okay, so number six, moving out of the meals completely and into decorations and that sort of thing. Number six, put up your lights early outside. So if you do anything outside, put it up early. You don't have to turn it on, but that way, at the beginning of November, when the only thing you've got going on is fall activities and sports, you're able to do that. So come after Thanksgiving, you can just turn the lights on and it's one thing off your list. Number seven, so when it's time to decorate, before you take things out of the box, or as you take things out of the box, I should say, I want you actually taking notes of what went into that box to make it easier to repack. That way, you know all of the stuff fits back in that box. And even better, if you hire a house manager, which I highly recommend if you've never done that before or you're curious about it, I would love, love, love to speak with you. So I'm a big fan of my house manager. She's what keeps my head above water. But regardless if it's her, if it's your help or if it's you putting things away, I want you making it as easy as possible. Write the inventory of what goes in the boxes. You do that once, you get to use it year after year after year. The next thing, once everything is up, I want you actually taking pictures of where you put things. So that way next year, you know exactly where it goes. You have that in a folder. It's saved purposely in a folder in your phone. And then year after year after year, you can consult it. And then you probably know where I'm going with this. If you have help, guess what? Like my house manager is the one doing a majority of the decorating. Don't get me wrong. I'm a jolly freaking elf. I am right there with her for a lot of it, but we're able to do it in half the time. Truly, if I was to do this by myself, it would probably take me about 2 full 8-hour days to do the decorating. I do a lot of decorating, but with her, we're able to knock it out in half the time, and she's able to know exactly what I need her doing without me micromanaging her because she has the pictures to consult. Okay, number nine. I want you paying somebody to wrap your gifts. It doesn't have to be expensive. Find a high schooler down the street, take all the gifts to them and in your trunk when your kids are at school, have them sit there in front of the TV. They don't have to make a lot of money because they get to do it on their own time. They get to do it in front of the TV, whatever it may be. The bottom line is you don't have to do it. That is something that is very, very easy to let go of. I'm really good about buying my gifts early. Heaven forbid there's a fire, it's all going down in flames, so it's a kind of a wasted money. But I do get my gifts early, so that way the expenses don't hit me all at one time, and I'm able to get things on sale. And it spreads out mostly because it spreads out my expenses. So I hide all that stuff. I keep most of the gifts in a suitcase because I can lock the suitcase and it looks very unsuspicious. And then I will hide the boys, and then I'll put my husband's in really pretty wrapping paper that I put below the tree early just to give it a little bit of decoration. Not all of the stuff, but a little bit, just to give a little decoration. So pay somebody to wrap your gifts. Number 10, the last one on the list, is stop feeling pressure to do all the things. Truly, like you don't need to go see all of these lights. You don't need to go to all these Christmas pageants. You don't need to do all the things. Let your kids just choose one thing that season that they're super excited about and do that. Whether that be the Nutcracker or the lights or the Christmas pageant or going to see Santa or going to watch the singing bears. It doesn't matter. The parades, like let them choose one thing, and then that becomes what you try to do. That becomes what you prioritize. Then if you're lucky enough, you can fit everything else in, but that way you don't feel the pressure to have to do it. The other thing I would say is kids thrive on tradition. When I think back to my childhood, and probably you too, when you think about what really meant something to you as it relates to the holidays, it was probably some of the traditions. So keep it simple, like stick to the traditions. That's what's going to build the core memories for your kids. Let everything else go. Okay, friends, it is time to close down. If you have not yet seen my Time Wasters Guide, it is the top 10 ways that people tend to waste time. I would love to get that in your hands because as you know, almost everything I anchor back to is around ways that you can manage your stress or ways you can manage your time. We don't have a lot of it. So if you have not gotten the Time Wasters Guide, you can get that link in my show notes, or you can go to www.workingmomsmovement.com/time-wasters. I turn 40 next week. So if you haven't already, I would also love you to give me the absolute biggest birthday gift ever by sharing this with a friend, rating and reviewing me. That's what's going to give this podcast teeth. That's what's going to keep it alive. So please, please, please give me that birthday present. Like it's a milestone for me. Would love for you to meet me where I am. That would mean a lot. Until next time, friends, if nobody's told you lately, you're doing a great job. You've got this, Mama.